Well, it's that time of the year again where we wrap up the top trends on social media. It's been a tough year for many across the globe, and Twitter has been abuzz with the latest news, scandals, political wars and blunders, horrific terror attacks and some celebrity gossip. Now in South Africa, some of the top trending stories that stole the online spotlight were the elections, state capture, the SABC inquiry, the hair debacle, racism incidents, and our own sporting hero, Wade van Niekerk. On the international front, Donald Trump triumphed as the new president-elect of the US. People still love the Kardashians, and several terrorist attacks topped the social trends as well. Now, to discuss this further, we are joined in studio by Managing Director of Roy Africa, Tonya Khoury. Thank you for being with us.
It's so good. Good morning to you, Renee. So good to be here.
It's been a very busy year on social media. Before we get into that, though, we've just had 3 terror attacks all in one day. What do you make of this? These are quite similar to some of the incidents we've seen over the year.
Yes, I think, Nice attack and Brussels attacks that happened earlier in the year were very dominant across news and social media. But over the period of 2016, we've had more and more of these types of incidents, making the coverage diminish. And yes, these 3 happened within a 24-hour space time. I see there's another one that's just happened now. So I think that we will see an impact on the charts. I think there's almost a little bit of fatigue with terrorism attacks, and that's tragic.
Let's come to South African trends. It's been quite busy. People seem to love politics and sports. We love race and religion, don't we?
Absolutely. I've never seen a country more absolutely obsessed with politics than South Africa. We're so involved to intricate level, like we understand it, we're watching it, we're involved, we know everybody, every minister's name, and we're very vocal about it. So we've seen over the year at ROI that politics has dominated those charts. I mean, state capture is very much the biggest story. And when I say the biggest, I mean by a good 51% of our year's media. That's an enormous story. We've also had fees must fall. Last year it was enormous. This year it's even bigger. I think it sits at number 3 on our charts this year. Politics very much in the face. Racism, as you said, also another ongoing, I hate to call it theme within the charts, but yes, that's certainly come to the fore as well.
I want to talk a bit more about these racial outbursts, as it's been called. A number of them have taken centre stage throughout this year. It seems that Penny Sparrow kind of put the spotlight on these cases. We saw a domino effect taking place after she was called out. Are we highlighting this problem, or is this a problem that's already existed and we're kind of just highlighting it now, pulling it out from under the rug?
I think social media has never been more prevalent than it's been in the past few years. So I think before, things like this were kept slightly quieter because we were relying on mainstream media to expose them. Now social media does that job, and very, very quickly, and with mass coverage, And I think Penny Sparrow particularly kicked off the year with a very bad note. It was at a time that was quiet, where people were all on their devices surfing. So I think that also exasperated the situation. And then, of course, Gareth Cliff entering the ring as a social media influencer made a huge impact on that story and set the tone for the rest of the year.
Let's move on to religion. We've had a couple of controversial pastors as well, and the jihads as well in the other parts of the world. Tell us a little bit about these trends.
So ISIS certainly formed part of the big top 10 this year internationally. Here the doom prophets and those stories certainly had their day, but it was just a day, and then the story dissipated. And I think, for me, it's one of the most noteworthy things that's happened in 2016 is the speed at which we are consuming social media conversation and mainstream media. It's like lightning. We've seen charts light up for an hour with the story, and then literally it's gone, where before it would stay on the chart for a week.
Let's go to international trends. Of course, we saw Trump was dominating the charts throughout most of the year, this even before the elections. During the elections, he also took centre stage as well. What has been the aftermath of this?
Yeah, I think you spoke about Trump Trump triumph in. And I think certainly in the elections he did, but I don't know about from a social media perspective. There's a lot of angry so-called haters out there for Donald Trump, and there's a lot of people for him. I mean, the numbers do speak for themselves. But President Trump, now President-elect, certainly made the biggest story across international platforms. And another thing that I'm happy to see finally made it into the top stories is Aleppo.
Yes.
The crisis in Syria, finally getting some attention there, but doesn't come close to the Kardashians, and that's just tragic.
I saw that. We'll get to that in a moment, but on the note of Syria and Aleppo,
Yes.
I think, would you say that it's been a little bit undercovered throughout the globe, media, on social media?
Absolutely, certainly in the earlier part of this year. You know, the actual crisis there has been going on for years. It's didn't start this year. The beginning of this year, it was almost deathly quiet. I mean, I often mention statistics where I was astonished at how little coverage it got. And it seems to me in the past month or so, that's starting to come out into the media space, and primarily due to social media. Social media not shutting up, and we've seen this time and time again.
I also saw there's a mother-daughter tweeters, Alabed Bana, I think her name is. We saw the infamous photos of the boy on the beach, the boy in the hospital, the ambulance rather. And, you know, is this something that we're going to see gain momentum in the next year? You
know, we talk about Aleppo, but what happened with Burundi? Burundi doesn't even come close to our charts. And those horrific images we've seen out of Aleppo, you can mirror those in Burundi. Yes. The most astonishing things happened in Burundi this year, but we never saw a thing about it. So it's good that finally Aleppo's come to the fore. I think social media is largely is accountable for that, but Burundi just disappeared.
Well, thank you very much, Tonya. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Sad.
But thank you so much for joining us, and all the best for the new year.
You too, Renee. It's such a pleasure to have been here. Thanks to you too.
Thank you, Tonya. Of course, the Kardashians still beating Fidel Castro there in the trends, but that was Managing Director of Roy Africa, Tonya Khoury. Well,